Literally, fuck off.
Yo. What's up, everybody? Hello. Thank you, Will, for the 8 months. Appreciate you. You see my tweet that's popping off? Yeah. You gonna look at it now? Congrats, another BB baby. Edit. Never mind. That was a cute way to share his sister was visiting. I guess they thought this was America's sister. Thank you, Sydney, for the 7 months. I appreciate you. Look, BB Facebook is a gullible bunch. A gullible bunch. The comments were insane. What were they, Tom? I'm not in the group, unfortunately. It's a private one. I guess so. Facebook never changed. That's how I feel. Bashing how you guys weren't married. That's right. I thought you didn't like Sabrina. Not the biggest fan. I don't think she's the most talented artist. Traditional values are dying. How sad. That's what I'm saying. Say louder for the people in the back. Out of wedlock, how dare you? Yeah. We just doing an espresso on repeat. How do we feel? Okay. How are you guys? How are you guys enjoying Big Brother 26 so far? You guys having a good week? Because today we're locked in. We're talking BB26. We've got 6 news items. We got new player rankings. It's been average, meh, boring. Boring day of feeds. Look, there's going to be a lot of boring days of feeds when this AI arena is in play, but the live show is going to be fun. Would be great if the feeds were on. Yeah. Last night was interesting. Yeah, I think so. There's some stuff going on. It actually has been Love Island. Yes. I'm glad I don't have these live feed updates because I don't know if I'd be able to get into the mind of Leah. You know, I don't think that's exactly my my expertise. I know they won't, but they should vote out Tucker. I think there's a possibility. The problem is the BB AI arena makes it much less likely to flip a vote on Tucker. Because why are you going to expend... So we'll talk about it. I'll wait for the news. I'll wait for the news. Sorry. The way we went from Leah on Love Island to Leah on Love Island. Upgrade or downgrade? What do you think? We need more Tucker versus Lisa weeks. I don't know. I think it's going to turn mean pretty soon if we're not already there. Downgrade for sure. It's messed up. Hey. Sorry, I set Leah up there. They're fine. They're both fine. I set Leah up. Sorry, Leah. What you guys do with Molly today? Went to the mall. Got a ton of stuff. Got a lot of makeup stuff I've never heard of. Do you think Angela will expose Quinn's power? If Angela remembers. Because I know she remembers, but it feels like she forgets sometimes. Tucker's already started with the age conspiracies. What's his conspiracy? Because I know Brooklyn had the conspiracy that Cedric was 18. Dollywood got flooded. It was pouring today. That Lisa's not in her 30s. She's like low 30s too, right? Leah got as many showmances as BB25. Well, to be clear, she has 0 showmances at this point. Rank this season out of 10 so far? A 7, 6 or 7. Maybe a 7 for the drama. I think that's about right. Darts for days. Thank you for the prime. Appreciate you, Darts. It's so early. Yeah. What do you think of quality control? Is that an alliance name? What's quality control? I've been able to watch the feeds today. Oh, the Quinn and Cedric thing. Yes, I actually did watch the conversation. Is it an actual final 2, or is it like a theoretical final 2? Is it like we're gonna work together, or are they like locked in? We're gonna go to the final 2. Thoughts on the hate showmaster season? We'll talk about it. They mentioned being the hitman. I did hear that part. Okay, well, let's you guys want to just dive into the news? Is there anything else you want to touch on before we get in there? Because we're only going to stream for about an hour and a half, 2 hours before The Bachelor. Any last minute points of discussion? Molly's chilling. Okay. Let's get over to the news. BBN. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Big Brother Network. Very busy week. A lot of stuff happening. You wouldn't know it by watching the feeds, but there is stuff going down. No, I slept on the couch, Tom, of course. We got 6 news items today. All of them are of the utmost importance. And we start off with current event number 1. Chelsea won HOH. Now, a lot of people were like, yo, why is Chelsea winning HOH here? She's perfectly safe, potentially in the best position in the house. This is a stupid choice. No, I disagree with this. I think because Angela's first HOH was so ineffective at making some big power structure, and I think that's kind of the nature of Big Brother at this point. Those first weeks are filled with so many twists that it's really hard for the HOH to actually form a solid power base. Even though, like, the main reason people couldn't do it in the past 5 seasons is because every first HOH is trash except Cody. But what that does, it means the second HOH kind of gets to play the role of the first HOH and try to form a power structure and establish where the game is going. Chelsea, who seems like a very competent player, knows the game was in a good position, I thought was in a prime position to win this HOH and really solidify the house, lock down her people, and start moving forward. She had a lot of easy nominees to make, a lot of people volunteering, and well, before I say it, let me lend an ear to the chat. How do you guys feel Chelsea's HOH is going? I'm going to make it a very binary. Success or failure? Because I know there's a lot of nuance to it, but I just want the Cliff Notes version for you guys. Because right now, seems like people are leaning towards a success. 75%, 78%, 20%. Okay. It looks like a majority of you all believe her HOH was a success. Now, here's what I'll say. I think the HOH, considering what Chelsea could have done with it, is a bit of a failure. I don't like the way that she has conducted herself this week. I don't think she bettered her position in any meaningful way, but she certainly didn't tank her game. Didn't tank her game. She's not in a terrible position. I don't see her being nominated next week, let alone being targeted. But I think she did very little in terms of solidifying her position. She was set up with the Pentagon, but Quinn and Brooklyn were a little bit suspicious of it. Her and Quinn really haven't communicated much. It seems like Brooklyn is finding other people to work with. Cam is a whole situation we have to talk about at some point. Cedric's working with... It feels like Chelsea has maintained her position while other people around her are either tanking their games or improving their positions. So I think for Chelsea, she's treading water right now, which I think is a very big missed opportunity. Thank you, Brianna, for the gift. Appreciate you. Yeah, I think she spent too much time with MJ and Leah. I think it's good in terms of, like, these are pretty strong competitors who you're not that close with. So you're kind of covering your bases. Meanwhile, the people in the Pentagon probably won't target you anyways. But I think this is an opportunity to solidify your position. And it seems like she's more just trying to, like, make herself safe next week, which I think you have to be a little bit more forward-looking than that. She has solidified a group and has gained new allies. I agree, Sydney, but I would argue that the group she wanted to solidify is almost floating away. I feel like Quinn's floating away, Cam's kind of floating away, Cedric's floating away, Brooklyn's floating away. So if the Pentagon was as locked in as it was last week, which it wasn't super locked in, but more locked in, I feel better about this HOH. That being said, not a disaster by Chelsea. She's done fine. A very competent HOH, not in a ton of trouble. If I were to rate this HOH on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say a 5. So that's what I've got for current event 1, Chelsea winning the HOH. Obviously, if you guys did not know, I'm sure you all do, Chelsea wins HOH and chooses to nominate Angela, Lisa, and Kenny, which are all very safe nominees. I do have one question for you all. How do you feel about the prospect of nominating Mackenzie in this spot as an initial nom? Because this was an argument that America and I had. And I'm very curious your all's thoughts. Because obviously the benefit of nomming Mackenzie is you nominate Mackenzie, she has to use her veto, and then America names the replacement nom, and because you're HOH, you can't be the replacement nom, so you get to safely flush America's veto, while, you know, whoever's on the block, you should still be able to vote out Lisa or Angela or Kenny, whoever's left, right? So that's the first idea. And the second is, okay, you don't want to flush the veto because you're going to nominate someone who's physically strong, who's guaranteed to stay and play an HOH next week. So you're almost locking yourself into having one enemy. Would the rest of the house have your back? Maybe, but what if you're put next to all your allies? You're also safe for the week as HOH, of course, but I think the bigger fear is next week what happens if Mackenzie wins HOH, because you know she's going to be there next week. 62% say it would be dumb. 38% says it would be smart. Look, I think it's the more cautious play to keep Mackenzie off the block. Ultimately, you only need to deal with this Mackenzie power for another 2 weeks. But I do think Mackenzie's one of those players you want to get out sooner rather than later. If you could solidify your relationship with Mackenzie to the point where she's a real ally, which I think is Chelsea's goal, I think you could argue she's doing pretty well here. Whoever got put up on America's veto might be annoyed too. Yeah, but I don't know if they'd be annoyed at Chelsea necessarily. I think people are grateful that you're the one who does it. I think that is a misconception in Big Brother. Like, gratefulness doesn't take you that far. You know what I mean? Like, Jag used the veto on me, and that did not play any role into when I was going to target Jag. It made me trust him a little bit more, for sure. But, like, gratitude is not the most useful currency in Big Brother. It really doesn't hold that much weight. Because people will say, like, oh, you're not doing this for me. You're doing this for yourself. You're self-interested, which is the truth. So, that's the deal. Chelsea wins HOH. I think makes very safe noms. But I digress. Let's move on to current event number 2. And this is a theme of the week. The Big Brother bros are not good at Big Brother. Don't Google that. The bros are not very good at what they do. Now, a lot of people last week were shocked by how low I was on Cam. And I think I still ranked him 4th or 5th or something overall. But I'm not that high on Cam. And I wasn't because, very plainly, Cam does not know how to play Big Brother. He's not a big fan. He's kind of learning as he goes. And he revealed himself very early in the week to be a very flawed player in a lot of ways. Most obviously, he volunteers himself to be a pawn, basically. Which it seems to be a theme of this season. I don't want to act like it's the most ridiculous thing from Cam, because so did Kenny, and so did Tucker, and so did Angela, essentially. Like, everyone's volunteering. That's the theme of the season. But Cam essentially volunteered to be a pawn, spending all of his time with Leah. He's being warned that he's spending too much time with Leah, and instead of spending less time with Leah, he's talking to everybody about how he's actually not spending too much time with Leah, but is spending time with Leah. Very Cory Wurtenberger-esque. I think he's talking less shit about Leah than I would about America at this point in the season, but it's also earlier, so. Very, very messy from Cam. I think clearly he has a good skill set for Big Brother. He's very good socially. He's very chill. People like him. Strategically, he seems to be lacking. Right? That seems to be a problem for him. He kind of has the reverse issue of Joseph. Joseph's got more of that strategic mind and less of the social skills. So maybe if they could work together, something would be able to happen. Didn't Cedric and Leah kiss? I don't believe so. I feel like this would have been a bigger deal. But Cam volunteers himself, and Chelsea is super, super suspicious of Cam. Like, ridiculously suspicious of Cam. Quinn had his suspicions about Cedric, and those suspicions have generally shifted to Cam. Cam does not have nearly as many options as he did last week. The Mr. Anderson's alliance has barely met. That's the have-not, so it's Chemo, Tucker, Quinn, and himself. The Pentagon's falling apart. Chelsea and Cedric are talking shit about Cam. Cam kinda doesn't even have Leah because it seems like Leah's into Tucker. All of a sudden, I'm thinking, where the fuck is Cam in this game? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't think he's in immediate danger, but he certainly was in conversations to be nominated this week. And if a guy like Cam is there after the veto, kind of hard not to vote him out. So a bit of a disaster week for Cam. He's getting away without touching the block, which is really good. But I think everyone who was very high on Cam's game, who bought into the Cam stock, is a little bit concerned now. Maybe this is where you have to be diamond hands. Hold your Cam stock. And Cam took Chelsea cereal, and that's perhaps the worst part of it. Matt going was bad for Cam. Sure, but Cam should have been fine with that situation. Cam, the next big dude, though. Like, anytime you have a big dude on the block on Thursday, you got to heavily consider evicting them. The problem is, for a guy like Cam, for a guy like Tucker, it's really hard to flip a vote on them because the AI arena exists. So you don't want to flip a vote and then they have the opportunity to save themselves. All of a sudden, you put a lot of your game out there, you expended a lot of social capital for a move that can't even happen. I think the biggest problem for Cam by far is losing Chelsea. Because he should have been locked in with the 3Cs. He should have had the Pentagon backing him. He has a lot of alliances with Quinn. And instead of having all these alliances with Quinn kind of bolstering their relationship, it seems to be like a fissure between them. Quinn is very suspicious of Cam. I think Quinn wants to target Cam as soon as his next HOH, which obviously we know he's going to have one of the two next HOHs. So it's dicey for Cam. I'm very nervous for him. I think he has the connections and the ability to get out of here. I think, honestly, the best situation for Cam is Leah just gets evicted very soon. But eventually, if Chelsea turns on him 100%, at that point, you need Leah in the same way I needed America. I think my position in the Big Brother house was America leaving early could have been okay for me because I could have recovered and tried to figure out my next path. But once you pass the point of no return, you've just got to keep your people close to you, keep your allies. I don't think Cam is there yet. But if things keep going the way they've been going, I could see it happening very soon. We're in power rankings after the news, MPAC. We're on current event 2 of 6, but we're about to be on current event 3. So, of course, we have the veto competition, and Kenny wins. Again, Joseph and Brooklyn are chosen, which is a little bit odd. Do we know what the veto comp was yet? Do we know? Do you think Tucker has a chance to win the game? Sure, but I would be very hesitant to pick him. It was a stacking comp? Okay. So probably like Atomic Wedgie type vibes. Okay. Well, let's go to current event number 3, which is something we talked about a bit yesterday, but to those who were not present, Angela's had a weird week. So Angela essentially volunteers to be a pawn, not super directly. She more so goes to Chelsea and says, I'm expecting that I'm going to touch the block, which is code for I volunteer. A lot of the ways I got Jag to use the veto on myself instead of America was I went to him and said, America expects you to use it on me, which was a lie. Kind of. Once you hear someone's expecting to do something, it makes it a lot easier for you to actually do it. So, Angela essentially volunteers for the block, is nominated, and then it gets weird. She calls out a theoretical grouping of people, including Cedric, Cam, Chelsea, and T-Core, to Quinn, which Quinn obviously looks at that and says, that's a little bit suspicious and convenient. That is the 4 black people in the house. That gets back to T-Core, that gets back to Chelsea, which they then confront Angela. It's a very messy situation. The feeds are cutting all over the place. They seemingly don't want to let Angela say anything on the live feeds. They don't want anyone to talk about Angela on the feeds either. We don't know the nature of exactly what happened, but it definitely seems a little bit messy. I'm not... Again, I don't know how much to talk about it because I don't know exactly what happened. But the point is, Angela went from being a pawn for Lisa's eviction to the target. Now, as time goes on, as it did in Big Brother 25, every time Felicia was on the block, she starts off as the target, and then throughout the week, as the days go by, you start to think, are we really wasting an HOH on Felicia? Like, we could get her out anytime. Are we really wasting the second HOH on Angela? Like, Angela's not target. Like, what are the odds Angela wins HOH and targets me? So the target's kind of shifting back to Lisa. She's all but completely isolated herself. I think it's tough to say whether she's isolated herself or she's being isolated or a combination of the two. It seems like they've obviously been told certain things about Lisa, and I think that might be another reason why people are keeping their distance. At some point, you gotta get those people out because they take a slot at the end. Happens so many times. You're 100% right. Runacell Tempest? I don't know. Correct my pronunciation. But I think people feel like it's too early. Right now, everyone's main concern is their short-term security, their short-term longevity, which is a kind of an oxymoron. And they're just more concerned about Lisa winning an HOH and targeting them rather than Angela winning an HOH. And even if she wins, she might target like Kenny and Mackenzie or whatever group, right? And also maybe for the people who know, they're like, oh, if Angela wins, I could just take over Angela's HOH if you're Quinn. Seems like production also instructed her to chill out. Well, look, she was also HOH last week and wasn't this week, so maybe that is a moderating factor. But it's been very, very messy with Angela. It seems like the target has shifted off of her back to Lisa, because why are we wasting an HOH on Angela? Which, you guys were right, eventually you gotta waste that HOH. It's not really a waste. Especially if you're a person who's not as strong in competitions. If you're like a Quinn, or maybe a Tucker, or a Cam, or Cedric, or someone, you can afford to have Felicia's, Angela's at the end. But if you're a Cory, if you're a T-Core, these are the people you want to get out earlier. Now, of course, Angela's still in quite a bit of danger this week. If Lisa wins the AI arena, she is presumably the backup target. Of course, that could fall onto Tucker. But with AI arena, no one is truly safe, and unless Angela wins it, there's a chance she could be going home. So it's been a busy week for Angela. I think her win equity already might be 0, but I don't think she's going to be evicted this week. I think that is about where we stand. There also is the other nugget of information that she has, which is she is one of 2 people who knows about Quinn's power. There's Quinn, of course, and then Chemo and Angela. Angela knowing it is this big wild card that if I were Quinn, I would want out of the house immediately. But it seems like Quinn values the Angela connection, or at the very least thinks keeping her this week is the right move. But with Angela in the house, it's really difficult for Quinn to enact some devious master plan. He's much more likely, I think, to use it in a relatively conservative way. So we'll talk about Quinn in a second, Cabrera. Ultimately, I think Angela's kind of drawing dead. It's weird watching her on the feeds. I don't know the exact situations that happened this week, but it's certainly concerning. Moving on, that's the halfway point of the news. We go on to current event 4, and it's been a weird week for Leah. So let's first of all talk about what's been going on with Leah. Leah has been very flirtatious in this house, which is a great thing. People enjoy that. She was flirting with Quinn a bit, flirting with Cam, flirting with Tucker, and of course you're going to have the jackasses online who point towards Leah and say, woman who flirts with more than one guy, kill her. Like, that's ridiculous. Of course. I think all of us in this chat, I would hope, do not feel that way about Leah. Granted, the way she's conducted herself in this, like, Love Island type recoupling ceremonies has been very interesting to watch. It seems like Quinn might have had a crush on her, but she shut that down. Then it seemed like her and Cam had something going on. But then she confessed yesterday to, like, Rabina and to Chelsea that she actually likes Tucker. But Tucker's made it clear he doesn't like Leah. And Chelsea, who thinks Leah and Cam are too close, is encouraging her to pursue Tucker. But Chelsea knows Tucker doesn't like Leah, so it's kind of like making this whole thing up. And Rabina might like Tucker, and Tucker might like Rabina. What the fuck is happening? Am I lost? Did I about summarize the Leah of it all? The point is, Leah is doing pretty well socially. A lot of people like her, but a lot of this showman's flirtation stuff is turning a lot of house guests off of her. It's obviously not helping with Tucker. I think Quinn, since the flirting has kind of been shut down, has backed away, which I think makes some sense. I don't think Quinn wants to be like, you know, even strategically, like, I don't think he wants to be super, super involved with Leah because he doesn't want to feel, like, pushy. But obviously that does affect the relationship to a certain degree. The Leah and Cam thing seems to be blowing up Cam's game, but she doesn't even... like, it's all been a mess with Leah. She's also clinging a little bit too much to Mackenzie. She's talking a lot about loyalty and integrity. I think a lot of our faith in Leah as being this floater who could just navigate through the game and flirt with the guys and manipulate them, that doesn't seem to be what's happening. That doesn't seem to be Leah's MO. She seems to more be like a very social player who's kind of looking for a showmance. And the person she has her eyes on right now is Tucker. Twitter taking the hate too far? Of course. I mean, Twitter always is going to do that. Leah's done nothing wrong. It's just when you're talking about Leah's game ability, I think it's tough to be super complimentary right now. A lot of the connections she has simply are not very valuable. She's locked in with Mackenzie, it seems, but that doesn't do her very much. She seems to be pretty locked in with Lisa, but she's probably getting evicted this week. I don't know what path Leah has moving forward. It seemed like for a second she could be pulled into this, like, Quinn, T-Core, Chemo, Tucker theoretical alliance. That seems less likely now. I think Leah is someone who could still make it very far and also could be evicted in the next couple of weeks, especially with Mackenzie having this power. So, Leah, I think she's been pretty fun and interesting to watch this week as far as her gameplay. I think it's very fair to be very skeptical. That's Leah. Now, we move on to current event number 5, which is, of course, this guy. The second instance of the Big Brother bros being bad at Big Brother. Brutal. I'm sorry to interrupt, I need your input on this tweet. Alright, well, what the fuck do we got here? Angela found me a luxurious motel-style property in California featuring upstairs master bedroom, game room. This is the stupidest. This is what you had to show me. Joseph's fucking stupid dad joke. Alright, so Tucker, who I think a lot of people, after watching him play really poorly last week, for some reason looked at the data and said, I think he's a good player for some reason. He was bad last week. He was saying no to joining alliances. And people were still like, yeah, but I trust Tucker. Then he comes in this week and volunteers to be a pawn. Immediately. For no reason. Tucker was not touching the block. There was a lot of people who could have gone up instead of him. But he volunteered. And of course, when you volunteer to be a pawn, you're gonna be a pawn. It's a very odd thing with Tucker. Last week, Matt volunteered Tucker for the block, and Tucker exploded. He was pissed. How dare he? We gotta get rid of Matt. That guy sucks. This week, I'll be a pawn. Sure. Yeah, no. I'm down. Sign me up. I want to sit next to Lisa during the eviction. I mean, obviously she could win the AI arena, and that could put me in a lot of jeopardy, because are people really going to vote out Angela over me? I mean, but I want to be on the block. I want to compete. I've got that dog in me. Tucker cracks me up, my hypocritical king. Look, you guys can love Tucker. I think Tucker is pretty interesting feeds. I will say, I think the pace at which he speaks is almost difficult for me on the feeds. It feels like he's a bit of an energy killer sometimes because he's so laid back and like kind of monotone. But he's definitely a funny guy. He's also a very bad player, I think. Very, very not impressed with Tucker's game. His positioning is also kind of whack. Like, he's got good one-on-one connections. It seems like T-Core and Chemo and them like him, but T-Core is also okay with him being voted out, and Leah likes him, but he doesn't even like Leah, and he's got enemies in, like, Lisa. It seems like he's good with Angela, but really, that's your connection you're hanging your hat on? He's got Rabina in his corner, which is good. Tucker has paths forward, but it seems like instead of taking the path, he's taking the path to the block, and he might be evicted this week. Right now, I give Tucker a good 25% chance of being evicted. Whether it's the vote just flipping on him outright, whether it's Lisa saving herself and then people voting out Tucker, I don't think he's safe. I felt like Chemo last week was safe. Tucker, if you've got a shot at a big dude on the block, he's not particularly well connected, why not vote out Tucker here? Especially for these other players, because Lisa is probably going to target people like Chelsea now. Maybe someone like Angela. So it's dangerous for Tucker. I don't like the way he played this week. He's, of course, sitting on the block right now, which is unthinkable. He tried to back out of it last second, get him to put up Mackenzie, but again, once you volunteer yourself for that position, you give the HOH such an easy out, especially when it's all over the house that he volunteered. I've got almost no faith in Tucker as a player, but he's a strong guy, so you can never count him out. maybe he can just go on a bit of a run. Okay. And this leads us to current event number 6, the final current event of the day. This isn't so much a current event, but a big discussion point. You're a way better player than Tucker. I believe so, but I don't think that's saying too much. Let's talk about Quinn, because Quinn has had a wild week. So the first half of the week, the discourse surrounding Quinn all had to do with his theoretical similarities to one Cory Wurtenberger. They're the new age AmeriCory, but he's different because he sucks. Which was a ridiculous conversation, of course, but okay. I think we see the comparison. Quinions rise up. Quinions rise of Gru. Seem to have a crush on Leah. Sorry, that mistake probably happens every fucking person talking about Big Brother. Has a crush on Leah. Leah doesn't seem that interested. Okay. He's in the Pentagon, but he's really sus of Cedric, and that sus kind of switches on to Cam. He's not really talking to Chelsea at all, so the Pentagon seems to be falling apart. He has his little conversation with Brooklyn, which didn't seem to go anywhere. Then he starts really kind of showing us, the viewers, what plan he has moving forward, the people he actually wants to work with in the future. He sits down with T-Core and Chemo, makes a final 3. Okay. I like this. I think being the third in a final 3 is super chill, because he might not even be the third. Maybe he's closer to Chemo than T-Core is. Obviously, in that threesome, I think Chemo's in the best spot. But what's very interesting is he dumps the Pentagon information on Chemo and T-Core. Now, I will say, I don't like the way that Quinn did this. And I want to be clear, I've made a lot of similar mistakes to what Quinn did, but this is me speaking as an analyst, not as... It's not hypocritical if I'm critical of my own choices too. You know what I mean? Do what I say, not as I do. Does that... Whatever. I think you guys get the point. But the way Quinn dropped this information was very odd to me, because not only does he drop the information on T-Core and Chemo that the Pentagon exists, but he also drops the info on T-Core that him and Chemo are in the Andersons, the Have-Not Alliance. Which is like, number one, it makes T-Core a little bit suspicious of Chemo, because why isn't Chemo telling me about this? And it makes Chemo suspicious of Quinn, of like, yo, dude, why are you making T-Core suspicious of me now? It's kind of the same way Mimi got sussed out by me leaking some of her alliances in the big fight with Jared and them. So it's a very odd way of doing things. I also think one criticism of Quinn that I think is very fair, Quinn is a very antsy player, and he really wants to play. And I think a part of this has to be he knows his best opportunity to make a move is coming up very quickly because he has this power. If he doesn't have the power, I think we'd be getting a much more conservative, careful, cautious Quinn. But he's talking with T-Core and Chemo about flipping the house. And I must ask, flipping the house on who? What house is there to flip? Is the power just the 3 Cs? Chelsea, Cam, and Cedric? But Chelsea doesn't even trust Cam. It's very odd. He wants to flip the house. It seems very preemptive, especially when it's not like his relationships on that other side of the house are disastrous. He might be very sus of Cam, but Cam is not super sus of Quinn. I think Chelsea could end up being a problem, certainly. Cedric, I know he has big problems with, but that kind of got resolved. One great thing Quinn did this week is he locked down Cedric. His whole fear for a while was he needs to get rid of Cedric. Cedric doesn't know the game, and he has so much influence, it's bad. And then he goes, meets up with Cedric, locks in a final 2. That should be what you do in Big Brother. When you have a bad feeling about somebody, you don't ice them out and target them, you bring them in. And then cut them when you need to. That was actually the advice I gave him on Patreon, so Quinn listened. Appreciate you. So he's pulled in Cedric, which is really valuable, but he's doing a lot. He's spreading a lot of information as well. He's theoretically trying to work with Leah. He also has his thing with Tucker and Cam. He's also got the Pentagon. He has a lot of information in the atmosphere, and that information dropped to the wrong person could put him in a lot of trouble. Fortunately, this doesn't seem to be a house where a lot of strategic conversations go down. He's also got his thing with Joseph, but that hasn't been followed up with in a while. If it was BB25, every one of Quinn's lies so far, or his like mistruths or whatever, would already be exposed and he'd be like on the bottom. On this cast, he's gotten away with it so far. I think confiding in people like T-Core and Chemo is not too bad because they're a little bit more chill. You know, they're not as likely to share information. But I am worried if he tells anything more to Leah, this whole game could unravel quickly. He's also got some people targeting him, at least one person. Kenny said he'd put up Joseph and Quinn, which is kind of a misread by Kenny, thinking they're running things, but again, I think if Kenny wins HOH, Quinn will just take it over. So I'm not too worried about Quinn's short-term security. But it is a little bit unsettling that you've already got people, rightfully or not, identifying Quinn as a target that needs to go. He needs to stop telling Leah stuff. Yeah, and I will say, people comparing Quinn and Leah to Me in America in that aspect is insane. Y'all know how much information I was keeping from America for so long. I didn't tell America about the Crossroads until after the Jared fight. I didn't tell her about 7 Deadly Sins until like week 4.5 or something. Quinn is a lot looser-lipped than I am. You didn't trust her? No, I did not trust her. I thought she would go and tell Jag or Blue. And then I told her and she immediately told Jag. I think it's good for Quinn to try to pull Leah in as like a loyal number, potentially even a final 2. But it does scare me quite a bit, the amount of information he's telling her already, when it seems like their relationship is not nearly as solid as Me in America were. He hasn't shared everything with her either? No, but I think proportionally, Me in America's relationship was much more locked down, and I was telling her less than Quinn is telling Leah now. But it is concerning. Not a big fan of how Quinn has played this week, but he still has a power. He still has a ton of options. He even has people like Lisa wanting to work with him. I think he could still work with Angela. He's got Joseph in his corner. He has so many paths. I struggle to see Quinn being evicted anytime soon, but with how volatile he's playing, you know, he could get himself in trouble really quickly. And also, the thing about Me in America is, like, I wasn't telling America shit for a while. And then I started telling her way too much, because I was like, well, obviously she's not going to betray me. And she never really betrayed me. It was just spreading information too much. But Quinn and Leah are not locked in that way. I think it's also very telling that Quinn told Chemo and Angela about his power. He just talks. He has a stronger social game. I think he's more extroverted, for sure. I would say he has a stronger social game because he's more comfortable doing it, but I think my social game was not the problem. I think my social game was fine. If Lisa leaves, what's the best way to use his power, and who does he blame it on? I think he should use it if Kenny wins HOH or someone dangerous wins HOH, or he should just save it to week 4 and use it. I think he should be careful with the framing. Trying to frame anyone too directly. If he just treats it like a normal HOH and keeps it a secret who it is probably his best call. He's fine. He's in a good spot. I just think he's shown some signs of being a slightly messier player than a lot of us were hoping. All right, let's get to player rankings. Just for a reminder, last week, I'll make my my face cam a little smaller. For a reminder, last week we had Kenny at 16, Matt at 15, Angela 14, Lisa 13, Mackenzie 12, T-Core 11. That was the chopping block. And then the top 10, we had Chemo at 10, Leah at 9, Tucker, Joseph, Rabina, Cedric, Cam, Quinn, Chelsea, and controversially, Brooklyn at 1. I know a lot of people disagree with that Brooklyn ranking. Now, let me very quickly change the images. Good. And then the player rankings, I have to switch to week 2 player pair. Okay. All right. Now, we move on to week 2. A lot has happened. Players have moved and shaked. We're always going to do player rankings on Monday or Tuesday, depending on the week. And we're going to discuss where everyone ranks. Of course, Matt is off the list. We're not going to talk about evicted house guests, even if they have amazing quotes about assassination attempts. Now, who do you all think number 15 is? That line to the right's bugging you. Let me see if I can fix it. Better? I think it's better. Number 15. I see Kenny, I see Lisa, I see Angela. All right. The green screen's doing its best right now. That looks better, right? I see a lot of Lisas, a lot of Angelas, a lot of Kennys. It's going to be one of the 3. You guys are right in that. But for me, just personally, wrong one. I have Angela at 15. Now, I think between Lisa and Angela, I believe Angela has a greater likelihood of staying this week. If both of them are on the block, I believe Lisa will be evicted. But I, at this point, would rule out Angela from winning the game. I would say she has as much of a chance as Cory Wurtenberger of winning Big Brother 26. Her week 1 HOH was a disaster, even though she got her target out. She's isolated herself from the entire house. She's alienated most of the house. I don't think anyone would respect her enough to vote for her in the end. I think she's going to be a perpetual pawn until she goes home. Maybe that's this week. Maybe it's the final 3. The point being, I think at this point, I'm willing to bet my life savings on anyone other than Angela winning Big Brother 25 or 26. Whereas some of these other players towards the bottom of the list, I don't think the jury's quite out on them yet. She has 0 options. She can't even comp out necessarily. I mean, she's won an HOH so far, but even if comps are equitable, you can't reliably comp out on equitable comps. If someone's going to comp out, that's going to be physical. So Angela has been wildly entertaining. It's been weird watching the feeds dynamic with her this week, but I think she's got a 0% chance of winning the game. And as a result of that, I think putting her at last on the player rankings is fair. Last on the chopping block. She genuinely has a better chance of winning BB27 than 26, honestly. Shuffleboard is a luck comp. Yeah, of course. But, like, that's the whole point. Like, if comps are more equitable, that gives her a better chance. But even equitable comps, theoretically, you should have, like, a 1 in 15 chance of winning. 1 in 14, 1 in 13. So, like, someone like Angela has no chance of comping out, whereas someone like Tucker, if comps become less equitable, he could comp out. All right. Number 14, who do you guys got? I assume you guys are between Lisa and Kenny. JJ says Lisa. Lisa. All right. There's one Kenny there, but the correct answer is Lisa. I got Lisa at 14. Look, Lisa's the target. Socially, she's like a pariah. She has very few options. I mean, maybe she could work with like Quinn, Chemo, and T-Core. Seems like T-Core has a soft spot for her. Yeah, this green screen's going nuts right now. How do I fix this? She has no options. T-Core's done with her. Yeah, it seems that way. But, you know, it seems like at one point in the week, she was a little bit more open to working with her. She seems to be an okay competitor, at least. She won a veto, which is good. She, of course, has the opportunity to win AI Arena and protect herself. Maybe the vote can flip on to like someone like Tucker to keep her safe regardless, but he could win AI Arena and protect himself. There's a tremendous amount of reasons why Lisa is in a very precarious position. The only reason I've got Lisa above Angela is because I think Lisa is less of a social pariah than Angela. I think she has more of an ability to win competitions. And I think she has 1 or 2 connections that could help her. Maybe that Quinn group. Maybe she still has Leah who she can work with. Beyond that, it gets pretty difficult. Seems like Kenny. Maybe. I mean, even that's like that's really a stretch. Let's try this. That's way too dark. But yeah, not super high on Lisa's game. Do I bail on the green screen? What do you guys think? The green screen looks so stupid. I don't know why it's so bad. Let me try to do something. It's going crazy. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I just look like a saint right now. Would the overhead light help? The overhead light's on is the problem. I think I'm gonna quit on it in a second. I think just bail. I think so too. I have another ring light I could use to help it, but anyways. So Lisa's at 14. I don't think that's super controversial. I think she is basically drawing dead at this point, but she could win some competitions that Angela can't, and she has one or two more connections. Who do y'all think I got at number 13? Number 13, numero 13. Kenny, Tucker, Joseph, Kenny, Jag. Well, no surprises here. It's Kenny. Kenny wanted to quit the game last week. He volunteered as a pawn this week. He won the veto, which is good. I think I'm underestimating Kenny as a competition threat. He's actually in very good shape. Where before I thought he was more of like dad bod kind of, maybe not as physically fit, but he's pretty fit. I think his read on the game is pretty terrible. He doesn't have any connections. He's kind of isolated from the rest of the house. I think he'd be okay with like a Mackenzie HOH, maybe a Leah HOH potentially. I think he's okay with Brooklyn maybe. He doesn't have the respect of the house. He doesn't have the relationships he needs. Whenever he's on the back foot, wants to quit. He's very critical of other players. It seems like a lot of the potential allies he could have, like, he should not be icing out Angela. Like, he needs every outsider to be an option to work with him. It seems like he should be a really valuable ally for people like T-Core and Chemo and these people, but even like Quinn is not trying with Chemo, or trying with Kenny, rather. He's such an easy person to nominate. He's also kind of a threat physically. It's only a matter of time till he gets evicted. I don't think he's the type of guy to get dragged to the final 4 or 3. I think there's a clear bottom tier of players this season, and it's Angela, Lisa, and Kenny. This is my order. Any way you want to order them, it's fine. So, Kenny, I don't see much upside. I don't see any path forward to winning. So I got him here at number 13. Only above people who are on the block and might go home. Which leads us to number 12. There's a bit of a tier break here, in my opinion. The bottom 3 are the bottom 3. And I think there's going to be a lot of parity of who could be listed next. Who do we got? We got Tucker, Joseph, Tucker, MJ, Leah, Tucker, Cam, Tucker, Mackenzie, MJ, Blue. Well, at number 12, I have Leah. Here's the problem with Leah. I think Leah has shown a propensity to get herself into trouble, which is not something that a lot of other players have shown. Some have, and we'll get to them. Don't worry. I think unlike some of the other people around this tier of player, I think Leah has less of a chance of winning competitions, or less of a likelihood to win competitions, go on a comp run. Socially, she's good, but she's never able to parlay this social ability into good strategic conversations. Her and Lisa tried to put together this like alliance with Quinn and Core and Chemo and maybe Tucker, and it just fell super flat because no one wants to work with them. a lot of the bonds Leah should have, she's kind of alienated. I don't think she's alienated Quinn by any means. Like, her, like, not showing interest in Quinn is her right, obviously. But it feels like that relationship, even strategically, has kind of fallen out of favor. Her relationship with Cam seems to be stumbling, and part of that is because people are warning Cam about associating too much with Leah. But that's very dangerous when people are scared to associate with you. Look, Lisa popularized the idea of not wanting to associate with people out of the game, but not being wanted to be associated with inside is an even bigger issue. Her connection, Lisa, is probably getting evicted this week. She's clinging too much to Mackenzie. And I'm very worried about Leah in a situation where Mackenzie and her are nominated. Mackenzie's going to have a veto to save herself. Could she get caught in the stray? Or can she catch a stray? I think it's very, very likely. I don't think there's that many people at this point in the game who'd be willing to go to bat with Leah. And also her, kind of a crush that she has on Tucker is the wrong crush to have strategically. It's kind of a dangerous one because you're crushing on Tucker. Tucker doesn't like you. That can make Tucker upset with you. It kind of makes Rabina annoyed. Maybe it could help her with Chelsea because at least Cam's not going to be involved with Leah. But for a woman in a showmance, usually that means you have an extra shield. The guy will go home first. But the way AI Arena works, that doesn't seem to be the case. And at this point in the season, it feels like she would go before any of the guys who she's involved with, flirting with. I think Leah's played very sloppily. She has some options. She has the social ability. I just am very, very, very doubtful of her strategic ability. And because of that, I think number 12 is kind of harsh, but I do think it's fair. She's turned on Lisa. It's like one of her only connections. So I got Leah at number 12. Also, I do think the house is somewhat getting annoyed of her shtick, like her storytelling and her energy. Which, it's very early in the season for that to happen. Number 11. This marks the last position on the chopping block. Everyone after this has cleared the chopping block and has made the top 10. I see Tucker. I see Mackenzie. MJ, Joseph, MJ, Tucker, MJ, Cam, Tucker. At number 11, I have the one and only Mackenzie MJ. I think MJ has done a pretty poor job of reintegrating into the house. I think a lot of us perceived her to be a very chill, potentially like a social butterfly coming into the season. She seems to be more of, I want to stick with my people and not interact with those who I don't feel that close with, which is a very big problem when you start out on the bottom. She tied herself to Matt way too early, and that anchor continues to be sinking her. Seems like she's locked down Leah as an ally, which is good. Bonding with Lisa, again, doesn't do her very much. The benefit Mackenzie always has, and it keeps pulling her up these power rankings. She has a power. I think her telling people about the power, which, again, it doesn't seem like her divulging of the power was a very strategic, intentional move, if you catch my drift. It feels more like she was telling a couple people, hoping it would stay a secret, and then it ended up leaking to everybody. But that is quite a smart strategy, ultimately, because you're using it as an idol. Like, why are we targeting Mackenzie when if I nominate her, she's going to use the veto, and then I could get put on the block, or my closest ally could get put on the block, and she's going to be there to target me next week. This power, barring crazy circumstances, will make sure Mackenzie's there on week 5. Which is much more than you can say for Leah, Kenny, Lisa, or Angela. Mackenzie has security. Like, legitimate security. So, I think Mackenzie, just because of that, earns herself in the top. It also gives her a lot of time to maybe repair her relationships. She's got Kenny, so there's a couple people who could win HOH, and Mackenzie will be chilling. Maybe if she is not nominated week 4, she can even use her veto on somebody else to build an ally. You think MJ played this week pretty well, but her longevity is minimal. I don't even know how well she played it. I feel like she was just bunking up with the people she was already close with. The reason she's ranked this high is she has short-term security, and that time should give her the ability to hopefully fix her position. Maybe if Quinn, for example, flips the house and targets Cam and does some crazy shit, that'll kind of fracture the house enough where Mackenzie can reestablish herself into a decent spot. People will be targeting each other instead of her. There's paths for Mackenzie moving forward in a way that I don't feel like there is for these other players. Also, I don't think she has proven to me in the same way of these other people that she's a horrible player yet. I'm not impressed with what I've seen, but I feel like we've seen so little strategy from Mackenzie that I still have faith she could maybe learn as she goes. Yeah, and I think attaching herself to Chelsea is not a bad call. I think Chelsea's power is kind of waning too, but look, Chelsea would be the best allies Mackenzie's had all game. But it's not good by Mackenzie, but she's got security, so I think top of the chopping block is as generous as I'm willing to get. So just a quick reminder, the chopping block, we have Angela at 15. She has no win equity. Lisa at 14. She's probably going to get evicted. Kenny at 13. He keeps trying to quit the game. Leah at 12 showed no strategic prowess and keeps getting herself and others into trouble. And Mackenzie, who is on the complete bottom but has a power. That is the chopping block. All right, 1 out of 10. 1 to 10. How'd I do? How's the chopping block? Any big disagreements? Did I nail it? A 9 from Jerry. You love to see it. A lot of agrees. 9.5, 10. A 4 from Will. Brutal. All right. People agree with the chopping block, but the chopping block is a lot simpler to do than the top 10, than the player rankings proper, because, simply put, shitty players are easier to discover. Who are the good players is a lot more of a complicated question in Big Brother, because there's not very many of them. The top 10 is a lot more subjective, but I've decided, based on my rich tapestry of criteria that I've developed, including short-term security, long-term positioning, win equity, comp ability, social skills, my faith in you as a player. Again, there's no simple way to describe the player rankings other than saying it's a rich tapestry. So at number 10, barely making it on to the top 10 off the chopping block, who do you all predict? Jacksonia says Joseph. Interesting. JJ says Tucker. Joseph has to be next. Tucker, Cam, Tucker, Cedric, Tucker. Number 10. I have Tucker. And I think Tucker is a very clear option. Tucker is lucky he's not on the chopping block. Because I think there's really a case for Tucker being on the chopping block and Mackenzie taking his number 10 spot. Here's the deal with Tucker. He is in a okay position that got massively worsened when he volunteered to be on the block. Now I think there's a very reasonable chance he gets evicted this week. Of course, he can save himself with the AI arena. Also, as of right now, he should stay against either Angela or Lisa. But there is a lot of time left in the week, and Tucker is a very big physical threat. He's an intimidating player. And sitting next to someone, especially like Angela, are you really going to vote out Angela instead of Tucker? Are you really going to keep that guy in the house? Now, the benefit that Tucker has is because of the existence of AI Arena. We've talked about this a couple of times. It's very unlikely for a vote to flip against him super clearly. And that's because you're risking a lot of social capital, a lot of your game, to flip a vote on someone who might be safe regardless because of the AI arena. So it's kind of unlikely that the vote flips on Tucker, but that possibility is there, and I think especially if Lisa wins the AI arena, there's a real possibility that Tucker will be evicted. Very, very dangerous position for Tucker. Another part of why he's ranked here, his relationships are really not that impressive. It feels like he has an okay thing with T-Core, but she seems somewhat open to the idea of voting him out. I don't think she wants to, and I don't think she should. But there's a possibility there. He seems to have Leah liking him, but he doesn't even like Leah. Quinn is very open to voting him out. This Anderson's alliance doesn't seem to be real. I mean, Chemo is a little bit open to it. He's got Rabina as a pretty good relationship, but that's almost been waning since all this Leah stuff's happening. I need a final two from him. Doesn't he have a final two with Joseph? You wouldn't know it by watching the feeds. It doesn't come up. It's not something that's re-solidified over and over again. 12 and 11 was Leah 12, and then Mackenzie 11. I think him and Joseph might have a final two. He doesn't have relationships. And then the final, probably the most important reason why he's at number 10. After this week, it is almost impossible to have any faith in Tucker's game ability. I think people preseason were kind of high on it because he seemed to be somewhat a fan, have familiarity with the show, seems like a smart guy. I think at this point, we're all in agreement that Tucker is a bozo. And he's a lovable bozo, but he's a bozo. And look, some bozos go on to win the season. In recent years, we've seen this many a time. But at this point, I think it's almost impossible to have any faith in Tucker as a game player. So, what was everyone saying about Jag? It's exactly what I'm saying, Eric. But look, Jag was evicted week 4. I think Tucker might be evicted even earlier, so we'll see. Who are these bozo winners? There's a ton of bozo winners. I think Jag, and I say this lovingly, love Jag. Jag's probably a bit of a bozo winner. Mickey's probably a bozo winner. Rachel's probably a bozo winner. There's a lot. Josh Martinez, of course, is a bozo winner. Of course, Josh. Josh is like the perfect. I wouldn't say Taylor. Taylor's a different breed. I don't think Casey, yeah. Tucker Baines, it's possible. It's very possible. But I got Tucker at 10. I have very little faith in my guy. All right. I would love to hear y'all's prediction for number 9. It gets a lot more complicated now. At this point, there's a lot of people who are in this little area. Katie predicts Cam. Cedric. Cam. Cam predictions. Heidi thinks it's going to be Joseph. King of Two Hole has been saying it's been Joseph for the past 6 people. Says it's crazy if not. Well, sorry, bud. Sorry, King. Because number 9, I have Cam. Cam is in a very similar spot to Joseph. Or, sorry, a very similar spot to Tucker, except for one key fact. Cam's not on the block, has no chance of going home this week. Tucker does. Cam, on a week where potentially his closest ally, one of his 2 closest allies, wins HOH, was at severe risk of touching the block and at a realistic risk of leaving the house. So that's a really bad job from Cam. Not good, buddy. He has proven himself to be very competent socially, but he's a little bit misguided in how he uses that social ability, spending way too much time with Leah instead of his allies, not building new bonds, instead kind of sticking with the ones he has, and even then neglecting some of those. His strategy with Leah is what many people have done with potential flirtmances and showmances, trying to convince everybody he's not that close to them and then continue to spend time with them. He also, much like Tucker, volunteered himself for the nomination block, which is really bad because a guy like Cam, if he's ever up there, he's already got people saying his name. I think Cam would be evicted this week if he was on the block. Really, really dangerous. He is a very self-destructive player. The other reason why I think Cam deserves this low spot on the player rankings, he just doesn't have any connections. It doesn't even seem like Leah's a real connection to him anymore. Who's Cam's closest ally? Who is it? Is it Cedric? But Cedric's talking a lot of shit. Is it Leah? I don't think it's Leah. I think Cedric is the answer, but Cedric seems to be locked in with a lot of other people more than he is with Cam. Chelsea? Chelsea's talking as much shit about Cam as anyone in the house. Cam went from probably the most well-connected person in the house, everybody wanted to work with Cam, no one was suspicious of him, to, I don't know if he has a single mutual ally. Exactly, Runice. Tucker? Is that really what we're going with? Cam's positioning is bad. He has no allies. His strategic ability seems very lacking. He still has some time to turn stuff around. There's targets in front of him, but at this point, I think he can be the target as soon as next week. especially if Quinn is going to take charge of that HOH. It's a really dangerous spot to be when someone's targeting you and they have the ability to just hijack an HOH whenever they want. Extremely, extremely dangerous for Cam. I think I only have him at 9 over Tucker. I think Tucker has more long-term potential, but Cam's not nominated this week, so. Quinn targeting Cam strictly because of Leah's jealousy is hilarious. You don't actually think that, right, King? Like, I heard that on Twitter. That's not a real thing. He's targeting Cam because Cam is, like, in all these alliances, and, you know. I don't think it's that serious. Anyways, we move on to number 8. I know King is going to predict it's Joseph. Do you guys agree? Who do you guys think it is? Joseph, Chelsea, Cedric, Joseph, Quinn, Cedric, Joseph, Quinn, Joseph. Most people are saying Joseph. This is where I'm going to show a little bit of faith in my guy, because I have Cedric at 8. And Cedric was the other option everyone's saying. Cedric drops a couple spots from last week, because I think a lot of my concerns about Cedric's game ability have proven themselves to be warranted this week. Cedric is not very familiar with the show, and I think he's shown that in a couple of key ways. I love how actively he plays, but I think he's very messy in how he plays. His also core alliance of Chelsea, Cedric, and Cam seems to be falling apart. That's very dangerous. He's losing the Pentagon. That's very dangerous. And he's also not very well connected with the other side of the house. He doesn't have the relationships with Chemo and with T-Core. He's kind of got something with Kenny. He's obviously working with Quinn quite a bit now. He doesn't have 0 options over there. But the loss of the Pentagon is pretty drastic for Cedric. It's pretty bad. A lot of my ranking him below someone like a Joseph is my lack of faith in his strategic ability. I'm kind of really worried about that. I think Cedric is one of these people who, if you're targeting Cam, you kind of got to put Cedric next to him. I like what Cedric is doing in terms of, like, it seems like he's pretty locked in with Chelsea, but am I crazy? Did he volunteer himself for the block? I think he did too, right? It wasn't as pronounced as Cam, but it definitely came up at one point, right? He did. As a last resort. You have to, anytime someone volunteers themselves for the block, you have to mark it against them as, oh, they're not a very good game player. Which I think a lot of us suspected about Cedric, but it's he did a really good job week 1, and I don't think he's been a disaster week 2. I think he's still in a good position. I think he's pretty safe. He's got a lot of options. I think his bond with Quinn is massively important. He doesn't even know Quinn has the power, but the fact that Quinn is not targeting him and is instead targeting Cam right now is huge for a short-term security. There's almost no way Cedric gets evicted for the next couple weeks now. I don't have faith in him as a player. I think socially he's pretty good. I love how he plays actively. I just don't love the way he plays. Him volunteering for the block takes points off of him. Ultimately, I'm just not that impressed with Cedric as a player, but I do have faith that he'll have enough time to hopefully turn this thing around. Cedric, I have at number 8. Now at number 7, who do you guys have? What's the prediction? Like that shortening? Joseph. Rabina, Joseph. All right, yeah, it's Joseph. Joseph is the epitome of... He's doing all right. He had his birthday, so you gotta boost him up for that. But he's doing fine, I suppose. Like I've seen worse. He doesn't have a ton of connections, which is very troubling. Very, very troubling. King of Two Hole, thank you for the gift. I appreciate you. This is your Joseph being ranked celebration. Just for a bit of for some context here, Cam dropped from number 4 to number 9. Cedric dropped from number 5 to number 8. Meanwhile, Joseph went from number 7 to number 7. So he's maintained his position. Joseph's biggest problem by far is he has a lack of options. He doesn't have as much going on strategically as we would think. He doesn't have the connections he needs. He's got a bond with Quinn, but it doesn't seem like that's been solidifying too much. He doesn't seem to be locked in with this T-Core and Chemo group either. It feels like a lot of people are expecting Joseph to touch the block in the coming weeks. He was an idea as a replacement nom here. He's playing very passively, but I don't think that's necessarily the wrong move for Joseph. I think if Joseph starts playing, spinning out of control, things can flip on him really quickly and he could have been evicted. Once he has an HOH, once he has a semblance of power, I think he'll be able to really get things going. Also, I do have faith in Joseph's strategic ability. He's a big fan of the show. He's also not volunteering himself for the block. He has a better head on his shoulders than to do that. He's expendable to everyone. I even think he's expendable to people like Quinn, who he should be a big asset to. Someone like Kenny seems to be targeting Quinn and Joseph. Why is Joseph being targeted by anyone? He is the smallest threat. I do like what he's been doing socially. He just seems a little bit less awkward, a little bit less lingery in terms of just hanging out in rooms. But I don't think it's manifested in any super deep, meaningful connections, which again is my biggest problem with Joseph. I once again ask you all, who is Joseph's closest ally? Because there's a couple people. Maybe it's Quinn, maybe it's Tucker. He's super close to Chelsea. Yeah, he's close to Chelsea, but Chelsea's got a lot of options. Is it Chemo? He's got a lot of people who I think he's got like a working relationship with, but I don't think he's anybody's number one. That's concerning. I think he's expendable to everyone. That's concerning. But it felt like he had a good chance of touching the block this week. He stayed out of the fray. I think he's got a couple weeks of runway in front of him. I have faith in him as a game player, and everyone else around him is revealing themselves to be worse and worse players. So because of that, I have Joseph at number 7. But I'm rooting for him. He also says I'm his favorite player, me and Felicia, so respect. All right. Who are y'all's predictions at number 6? Number 6, numero 6. Quinn, Chelsea, Quinn, Chelsea, T-Core, Rabina, Chelsea, T-Core. I actually don't see their name coming up too much, but number 6, I have T-Core. I have T-Core here. I think T-Core has substantially improved her position. Last week, she was on the chopping block at number 11, and she jumps all the way up to number 6. So I'm much higher in T-Core's game than I was before. My concern with T-Core is somewhat similar to my concern with someone like Cedric. She doesn't know the game super well, but I think she has a much better head for the strategy of Big Brother than someone like Cedric, someone like Cam, someone like Mackenzie does. I think her and Chemo have done a really good job of putting themselves in a better position this week, but I am somewhat skeptical of T-Core's one-on-one relationships with everybody. It seems like she's pretty good with Tucker, but she's somewhat open to getting rid of Tucker. Like, I think T-Core doesn't seem to be playing the most active, self-interested game, which is my biggest concern. I think she's a pretty passive player who has been marginally improving her game, but it feels like everyone who's doing the same is like doing slightly better and more active. I don't think she's going to be one to like really, raise her voice and get someone evicted from a house. She only has a strong one-on-one with Chemo, which is good. She's got good reads. She was trying to be pulled in by the 3 Cs, which is good. Her knowing about the Pentagon is extremely valuable, so I really like that positioning from her. My biggest red flag was the jury chat with Quinn. Yes, but that doesn't worry me as much as it does you all. Like, people talk about jury in the house a lot. I was someone who went to the house and I didn't care about making jury at all, but when you're in there, it comes up and it does start to matter to you. My biggest problem with T-Core is not that she'll play too erratically, not that she'll get herself into trouble. I'm scared she might play a little bit too passively and let the game pass her by. That's my concern. I don't think she's at Mimi's level of passive, but I think I see a little bit of Mimi in her. She's very open with her closest allies. Yes, I don't know how willing she is to, like, take in new allies. You know what I mean? But I love the way T-Core's played this week. I think there's a big tier gap between Joseph and T-Core. I think the top 6 are clearly the top 6. I think she was in a position where a lot of people would nominate her, to now I don't think there's very much anyone who would nominate T-Core. Like, do you guys know someone who would nominate T-Core? My biggest problem with T-Core, I didn't even mention, is I don't like the strategic conversation she has with people outside of Chemo and, like, maybe Quinn. Maybe Tucker. But even Tucker. Kenny said he would. All right, so Kenny says he's nominating everyone. Because he also says he's nominating Quinn and Joseph. Maybe all 3 of them. But, like, when she has strategic conversations with people outside of her alliance, she gives nothing, and I think it susses people out. It would suss me out. Just watching it, I'm like, damn. I guess I didn't really suss it out with Mimi, but I did eventually, right? And hopefully these players will be a little bit more intuitive than I am. So T-Core at number 6. I know you guys might think it's low, but the gap between 6 and 4 is very small for me. So at number 5, who do you all have? Who's the prediction? I saw Rabina was the number 1 guess. Quinn, Chelsea, Rabina, Quinn, Chelsea, Quinn, Rabina. At number 5, I have Chemo. Didn't see anyone put Chemo down. I'm waiting for the outrage in the chat. What? What? Oh, wow. Interesting. Oh, what? Oh, Lamfao. What? Chemo? That's my you impression, chat. The Cory Woo, huh? Here's the deal with Killer Keemstar. So, Chemo's issue for me is the exact same as T-Core. They are in a very, very similar spot. I have Chemo slightly higher than T-Core because I think in that final 3 of Chemo, T-Core, and Quinn, Chemo is better connected. Chemo has a better relationship with Quinn. Chemo knows about Quinn's power, which is good. It feels like Chemo also has more relationships outside of the alliance. Seems like he's better with Angela, which could end up being important. You never know. It feels like no one really wants to put up Chemo again. Everyone loves him. But I don't think Chemo is the active player that a lot of the people around him is. I think he's got a little bit of trouble branching out strategically. He seemed to have a bit of a bond with Rabina last week, and it kind of has fizzled. They're both very cagey with each other. He's got a lot of information. He doesn't seem to be in immediate danger. I just struggle to see him actively bettering his position. In a similar way, I struggle to see T-Core doing it. He's been getting more and more active, and it might take an HOH for him to really put his foot on the gas. But frankly, I'm a little bit nervous about Chemo's ability to make a decisive move when he needs to. He seems very passive, and a lot of my beliefs towards Chemo as a player are somewhat clouded by how I saw him act last week. He didn't seem to have the best strategic mind, frankly, in terms of like counting votes and to be a victim. Like, it all seemed a little bit dangerous for Chemo. Like, he doesn't seem to have the gamebot mind that I want him to have. Nobody's forming strong bonds. Any idea why this is? I think it's very easy to form strong bonds when you're in like a defined power structure, because you start promising each other things and you're gonna like live your whole life together and go to the final 2 and then go on trips after the show. Like, when things are more fluid, strategically, personally, things are gonna be a little bit weaker. The point being, I think Chemo did a great job this week. I think he put himself in a very solid position. I'm just a little bit scared about how passively he may play the coming weeks. That's all. That said, he was number 10 on last week's power rankings, and he skyrockets up to number 5. I don't want this to be interpreted as an anti-Chemo channel. I love Chemo. Definitely one of the people I'm rooting for the most. I have a lot of faith in him as a player. It's just the active versus passive gameplay that worries me. Which then leads us to number 4. This is the last person who won't make the podium. Rabina is the most likely guess with 60% of the vote, 59%. Rabina has to be next. And you guys know I'm the #1 Rabina truther in the Big Brother 26 community. And at number 4, I do have Rabina. Now, Rabina was number 6 on last week's power rankings, climbs up to number 4. I think people thought me putting her at 6 was high. I'm a Rue believer. Absolutely. I think Rabina has proven herself to be one of the most socially apt players in the house, but she's not so socially apt that people are, like, suspicious of her. In the way that people are like, oh my god, Leah's bouncing around. Everyone loves Quinn. I haven't heard people talking about this with Rabina. How is she higher than T-Core and Chemo? I really like Rabina's connection with Brooklyn. I think that is extremely valuable. It seems like these are two people who can play the middle to an extent that other people cannot. I don't think people like Quinn and T-Core and Chemo are going to target Rabina and Brooklyn. Neither will Kenny and Lisa and Angela. I feel like Rabina has almost the most security of anybody in the house. I have not heard her name come up one time. Same with Brooklyn. I think socially she's done an extremely good job. I think she proved herself to be a really good liar last week as well. She was kind of bouncing around the house telling everybody, I hope you win the AI arena. I'm going to keep you. And I was sold every time. She's got this, like, very believable demeanor. I also think she's shown a certain vulnerability in the house that is so valuable for forming connections. I think Matt did that very effectively last year, where she kind of opens up about feeling left out and people speaking over her. And I think that, like, pales in comparison to people like Mackenzie and Leah, who maybe are a little bit more, less self-aware. I just think, and again, Kenny says he's going to put everyone on the block. Everyone. Sydney. Like, Kenny said Quinn, Joseph, Rabina, T-Core. Like, he only has so many nominees. Like, I'm not penalizing you that hard for Kenny mentioning your name, I feel like what Kenny does is he walks around the house to different cameras, says he's targeting different people, hoping to get people on Twitter to be like, wow, Kenny knows the game when he guesses the right names. I'm a massive fan of Rabina's social game. I think strategically, she's a work in progress, of course. She's not super familiar with the game, but it seems like she has a sharper mind for it than, like, Chemo and T-Core even. Just the way that she talks about strategy makes a lot more sense to me. Chemo and T-Core are so cagey. I feel like Rabina's able to, like, be cagey but sound more open. I'm very high on Rabina's game. The reason I don't have her higher than this, again, just a lack of faith in her, like, strategic ability as it stands. I think she has to be one of those players who learns as she goes on. She's not the biggest Big Brother fan. Everyone above her is a bigger fan. So that's kind of holding her back, but it's not a big deal. I think she can get over that pretty quickly. Very happy with how Rabina's playing. She's moving up at a sustained pace. Next week, I would not be surprised if she cracks the podium. Which leads us to number 3. Any guesses on number 3? We've got Chelsea, Quinn, and Brooklyn left. Same top 3 as last week, so I'm pretty happy with this. Pretty happy with how I've done this. Quinn, Brooklyn, Quinn, Chelsea, Chelsea, Quinn, Quinn, Chelsea, 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 Chelsea. Seems like people think it's going to be Quinn or Chelsea. And the answer is Quinn. Position-wise, you could very easily argue that Quinn is in the best position in the house. On top of having a power that gives him an HOH in the next 2 weeks, he has the most options of anybody in the house. He has his final 3 with T-Core and Chemo. He made a final 2 with Cedric, the Hitman 2.0. It's a very different kind of Hitman, but sure. He still has the Pentagon, theoretically, even though he leaked the Pentagon. He even has a connection with Leah and Lisa. He's had conversations with Brooklyn. He's got the Mr. Andersons with Cam and with Tucker. He has everything. Ton of options. Ton of choices he can make, paths he can go. This ranking is almost entirely Calm down, Quinn. I think he's overdoing it a lot. I am so anxious about him having this power and blowing up his game so early. Too many people know about this power. And by too many, I mean Angela knows. Which is why I think evicting Angela here would be so valuable. Because I think you could almost be kind of confident that Chemo will keep his mouth shut. That seems to be Chemo's MO, and it seems like they truly are pretty close. Angela knowing it makes it so dangerous if Quinn tries to make this big move that it seems like he's orchestrating. There's a poll active for who's number one, Chelsea or Brooklyn. If he co-ops the next HOH and then puts up Cam, and Cam gets evicted, he's going to have the entire Pentagon targeting him. Now, who's in the Pentagon that would actually care? Maybe just Chelsea and Cedric, but Chelsea doesn't even care about Cam, and Cedric's working with him. The point is, if he tries to do something cute with this power, I think it'll backfire on him, and it's only a matter of time till some of this information he's been sloppy with leaks. Leah already leaked a little bit. It seems like Angela's already pissed at Quinn. Like, there's a lot of loose ends that he needs to tie up, or more likely, hopefully for him, they just kind of tie up themselves. Because that does happen in Big Brother. Sometimes weeks go by and things are just lost to history. Quinn's at number 3 because I love his positioning. I love how actively he plays. I love his game knowledge. I don't love his strategic instincts. I think a lot of people would say, well, he has a power that should rank him even higher. I think the power is almost emboldening him to play even more frenetically and concerningly, at least to me. Quinn worries me, but I love his positioning. I like his idea of working with T-Core and Chemo. I just wish he almost kept the Pentagon more low-key. I think exposing that information is really dangerous. I don't think it was necessary. I think it helps in terms of pulling in T-Core, but it's dangerous if it gets out. If I'm him, I would have been a little bit more cagey, kept my positioning in the middle, kept my options open. He's kind of pushed his chips to one side, and if it doesn't work out that way, he could be in trouble. You know, Cam and Chelsea and Cedric, they win a lot of HOHs, and the Cedric thing isn't real, he might be in trouble. Very good social game, though. All right. Now, we move on to number 2. There's been a bet. Everyone betting Brooklyn's going to be number 1, which would place Chelsea at number 2. Just to be clear, Quinn was number 3 last week and has remained at number 3. Chelsea was number 2 and remains at number 2. The top 3 stays the same. Y'all might be a little bit confused why I have Chelsea so high up when I say her HOH was, for the most part, a failure. Well, Chelsea was in a great position, and she has not improved her position. She really hasn't worsened it either. There's a lot of things that are dangerous about how she played this week. Number 1, she kind of lost Quinn to a certain extent. I think she should be the one pulling Cedric into a final 2. She didn't seem to make those active steps. Her relationship with Cam has dwindled from her side, but not really from Cam's side, importantly. I think it makes us viewers question her judgment, but it's not like Cam is targeting Chelsea all of a sudden. In fact, Cam is doing everything he can to make Chelsea trust him. The relationships Chelsea has lost in people like, obviously her nominating Lisa makes her kind of lose Lisa. Nominating Angela is kind of problematic. Kenny might be annoyed with her, even though he volunteered. Quinn seems to be going away. Brooklyn seems to be going away. But she did pick up Mackenzie and Leah. So the way I see Chelsea's position is it's different. It's kind of a parallel position, but it's not necessarily worse. I do fear if she falls into the MJ-Leah rabbit hole, will she be able to climb out? I'm not sure. But I do like that she has, more options. It just feels like her options now are less reliable, but she still has them. The reason I have her higher than Quinn, frankly, is I have more faith in her strategic ability. Which is crazy to say because obviously going into the season, I think Quinn I would have number 1 in that category by a mile. But I think Chelsea has shown a pretty level head as HOH. She hasn't lost her shit. She was very suspicious of Cam, but ultimately she made, I think, the right decision at every point. When you have the ability to nominate people who are volunteering, that's what you should do. The fact that you have people coming up to you willing to volunteer, it's a very good sign. She's a far more active player than Brooklyn, someone said in the chat, and I totally agree. But activity is not necessarily an indicator of being good. I think Chelsea might be a little bit too active in some areas and a little bit too passive in others. I wish she would like allocate her strategic fuel a little bit differently. I like her positioning. I like her connections. I still think she has Cedric. It seems like she has Mackenzie with the veto now, which is very valuable. I don't think people like Quinn are targeting her. Even when Quinn talks about flipping the house, it's always targeting Cedric or targeting Cam, not Chelsea. I think Chelsea has a decent-ish relationship with like Rabina and even with Brooklyn. She's got good bonds. I don't think she has as great of a power structure as she could. But in this season, with this group of players, I think all of that collectively, plus her not losing her shit as HOH, which is very easy to do, I think that makes me feel comfortable giving her the number 2 rank. Also, let's be real, like most early HOHs of these past seasons have a lot of trouble. On my season, it was like, you know, Heisem and Riley immediately are evicted after their HOHs. Like, the fact that I think she's walking out with not too many enemies is a good thing. Which leads us to number 1, a controversial pick last week. I think a more kind of universally accepted pick in Brooklyn. The King of the Hill, Queen of the Hill. Thank God for Brooklyn's husband for allowing her to play Big Brother. I really like the way Brooklyn has operated this week. I think she rides the line of passive and active gameplay really well. Thank you, Mr. Rivera, exactly. It seems like she's playing too passive at times, but everyone always feels good about her. She has this kind of, I don't know if it's an established final 2, but she's working very closely with Rabina, which I think is like the perfect pair to have in the house. She seems to not be on the radar at all of Quinn, Core, and Chemo. She's working pretty closely with Chelsea. She's also got people like Kenny. He's mentioning everyone's name. He loves Brooklyn. He wants to work with Brooklyn. I think Mackenzie gets along with Brooklyn well. Leah gets along with Brooklyn well. She has no ops, and I think she's shown more strategic prowess than Rabina. Plus, she's involved in the Pentagon. Like, she's Rabina if Rabina had a better start and more game knowledge. Brooklyn obviously is more aware of the show and how all this works. She's very likable. She's very chill. I think she has a good mind for the game. I would be shocked if she gets nominated within the next 3 or 4 weeks. And there's 3 noms, potentially a renom. I don't think people are even talking about her as a threat yet in terms of like, oh, she's so socially integrated. I've almost got no notes for Brooklyn. The big concern, of course, is does she have that strategic dog in her? She's shown flashes, but she is more of a passive player than Chelsea and Quinn and even someone like Joseph. But she's playing it cool. I think a lot of us have faith that she's going to prove herself to be a competent strategic player. But so far, I've got no notes. I think Brooklyn's killing it. I want to run one poll. Just so we can, you know, get to the bottom of something. The poll is, do you apologize for being assholes about my Brooklyn ranking last year? Or last week? Was I right? Was I? Well, right now, everyone in the poll says no, but that's just you guys coping. I've seen this story before. Yes, you were right. Thank you, Hey Bub. I appreciate it. 80% of you say you do not apologize, which means my chat will shrink by 80% when I ban all your asses. Mods, take care of him. Bring him out back. But that does it. The full power rankings this week. Number 10, we got Chemo. 9, Leah. 8, Tucker. 7, Joseph. 6, Rabina. Wait. Wrong one, wrong one. Hey, yo, 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 yo. Yo, 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 yo. Petty, thanks for the 5 gifted. I appreciate you.
Literally, fuck off.
Here's the right one. Petty, thank you. 93 to the channel. You're crazy for that. Brooklyn at 1, Chelsea 2, Quinn, Rabina, Chemo at 5, T-Core at 6, Joseph 7, Cedric 8, Cam 9, and Tucker 10. I disagree with the ranks, but I'm just opinionated. Ned, who's your top 3? That's all I need to know. Who's your top 3? Brooklyn's not winning this season?
Literally, fuck off.
I'd say, but based on the rich tapestry that we're using to rank these players, she's number 1. Yo, yo. Okay. I thought this was like a bare ass, not a... I'll show you guys. See, like, I thought this was like, damn, why did the guy like Ash Ketchum twerking? Is that Jeff Probst twerking? Hot dog, but yeah. This is fire. This is me. Look at me, so cute. But I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Power Rankings, the chopping block, and player rankings. We got to come up with a better name for player rankings for the top 10. So I hope you guys can cook. Cook for that. Let me know. Tweet at me or just save it for next stream. You look 12 in that drawing? Well, about the mustache. It makes sense, though. That was my look week 1. Appreciate you guys. Fun stream. We will stream tomorrow. And then no stream Thursday. But it's been fun. I'm really enjoying covering this season. Tomorrow is not going to be an all-day stream, but when I'm on, we're going to be watching the feeds a bit. Because, I got a live feed update on Wednesday morning. Appreciate you guys, and I'll